Hi, everyone. This is Esateys.
And this is Rafael, and welcome back to Relationships Done Different. As those of you may know, we started a series of shows on the body last week. The one we did last week was Your Body is Speaking. Are you listening? And today's show is going to be about your relationship with food. So hold on to your hat. Here we go. But first, Esateys, so what's going on with you?
Well, I was just thinking as you were speaking there about something that happened last Thursday, which is in the year-long program that we're doing. I have people do a lot of different things. And one of the assignments was to read a specific book called 2150 AD. And we were discussing that last week. And in doing so, what came up very frequently with the feedback was that it's very powerful when you spend your time reading, investigating, speaking, basically about things that are powerful, uplifting, and introspective. So I guess what I'm really saying here is that maybe everybody could just take a look at their lives and see how much of your time are you spending in really a true self-development state. If you're listening to this, then you're doing an awesome job because this is huge. The other thing is, in between these podcasts or coaching that you may be doing with me or someone else, what is it that you do in your quote unquote spare time? And listening or reading books that will take you deeper and open up your mind is just a very powerful way to experience and elevate your frequency and your good attitude and your mood, I might add. Because when you maintain your frequency at a higher level, you start attracting things that come from a higher level to you. And then your life starts really being a lot more fun than it currently probably is. In addition to that, when you start putting your focus on really living presently in the moment, then you start to awaken more. And all different kinds of magical things occur when that happens. That's what I was thinking about.
Just a nice light thought.
Yeah, whatever.
That conversation we had about 2150 AD, people got so much out of it and went so much deeper than what was there on the printed page and what was in the storyline, as we like to say. It was very, very awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really a great experience. And we're still working on that because the frequency is so profound and the people went to such a deep place.
Okay, so now that we teased you, this great book is called 2150 AD. And who wrote it? Always forget.
Thea Alexander. It's out of print, you guys. Actually, you can find it. The copies are very scarce and very expensive because it was written like in 1971 or 76 or something like that. At any rate, if you search the internet, though, you can look around and you can find transcripts or PDFs or something.
Cool. Okay, so I was just totally taken back by that book. I haven't stopped thinking about it since we read it.
Well, I read it back in the 70s, and it's been the most powerful book I've ever read.
Okay.
Especially for me at the time. It's still very impactful.
Okay, so your relationship with food.
Relationship with food. So just take a look inside yourself right now, those of you listening, and ask yourself the question, what is my relationship with food? And most people don't really think about food. Other people only think about food. But when I'm talking about relationship with food, what I'm speaking about is not that I need it, I want it, and I can't live without it. Well, literally you can't. Or that all I do is think about food because you have an addiction to it. Not about that kind of stuff, but rather, what is your relationship with food from a perspective of recognizing that it is actually an energy, it is a consciousness, and it is entering your body to support you at the level that its consciousness actually is and how you are viewing it. So needless to say, we're going a little deeper into what food means than perhaps some people. And I'm going to be a little more practical as well today, but I just wanted to start with that.
I just want to ask you a quick question. When you said it, The it you were just referring to your relationship with food or the actual energy of the food?
I'm talking about both.
Okay, maybe that's why I didn't get it.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. First off, there is the consciousness of food. The consciousness of food is that it has varying different degrees of vibration. And that depends on, a lot depends on the individual food, but it also depends on what happens to the food. When you eat food that is raw, it's literally alive with enzymes and frequencies that help elevate your body. And if you are eating food that has been very heavily cooked or things of that nature, then some of that aliveness is, I want to say, depressed, or it is gone from the standpoint that a lot of times the enzymes are killed and things of that nature. Does it mean cooked food is not a good thing? It does not mean that at all. Many people will advocate a raw diet or a mostly raw diet. And if you have the kind of body type that can handle that, I am all for that. I personally do not have that kind of body type. My body really wants foods that are steamed or cooked or in some way warm and nurturing, because I have a body that is lightweight and it really is supported by things that are a little bit what I'll call heavier foods that help ground this body. So you have to know what your body is. Here's the difference. When you're thinking about food from that perspective, then you're thinking about food as not only nourishment, but it's like taking an upper, or like taking an amphetamine versus a Quaalude, a downer, a sleeping pill, or whatever, because some food is very, very hard to digest. And foods that have zero support for you, like candies, cakes, or whatever, those kinds of things don't have any nutritional value. They frequently will have psychological relief. The relief is that it takes you away from feeling things that you otherwise might feel. So in other words, they numb you. They will literally depress the body's ability to perceive and experience life in a way that it is capable of doing. So again, I'm going to keep on putting these red flags up. I'm not saying that you should never have any of those things. What I'm really saying is that when you become very tuned into your body, what happens is you have a better sense of what is really working for your body, what's really nutritious for your body, what your body really wants and needs to be strong and powerful and clear. But when you are overloading your body, and it doesn't matter really even what kind of food, you can be eating a lot of really good food, but if you're eating, quote unquote, a lot of the food, more than your body actually needs, then your body is going to again slow down. It's going to be more dull. Your thought processes won't be as clear. You will obviously gain weight. And then when your body is carrying too much weight, what occurs is the body's in a constant state of fighting to try to get anything to work in order. And the body works much, much harder. And of course, you have more free radicals and all kinds of things happen, none of which are in your best interest. That's just one of the quote unquote logical reasons you do not want to overeat.
So, first takeaway that I just got, and I just wanted to say it here before we moved on, is that it's really important to ask your body what type of foods does it want? What type of food is most nurturing for it? What's most supportive? And when you do that consciously, you'll get a much better indication of where you should be eating your calories.
That's true. And when you ask the body, depending upon your personality and your programming that you have running, you might not hear answers that are really honest, so to speak, not really truthful, not on purpose. It's just that the program kicks in. So when you say, well, what do you want? And it's going to say, well, I'd like a hot fudge sundae, or I'd like to have 12 more scones, or I would like to have a couple drinks, or whatever. You may hear this kind of stuff and you'll go to yourself, well, okay, then I can do that for you. That's not really a truthful experience from the body. That is a response from the programming of addiction or of the part of the mind that wants to go away and be in denial. See, people don't usually think about foods being in a way that they can depress you and slow you down, like drugs or something like that. But it is really the same thing. So it's very important to know what it is that your body wants and needs by recognizing and becoming in touch with how your body is feeling. Eat something and notice if you feel energized or if you feel sleepy. Notice if you feel like you're thinking more clearly or, again, you feel lethargic. Your body will tell you according to what it is that you are eating as to how it's feeling. Now, I have to insert a caveat here as well, because many times when we eat like something that's really sugary or a lot of chocolate, there's caffeine, and the sugar as well can create a mini high, if you will. And so you think, oh, yeah, well, I ate that 6 ounces of chocolate and I feel fine. But, but in actuality, what's happening is that your body is on a high, and then the drop comes really, really hard. Again, I'm not against chocolate because I think chocolate is awesome. Here's one takeaway that I would give to everybody if you don't hear anything else. It's about moderation. It's about recognizing how much you're eating and how you feel when you eat what it is that you eat, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And it's also about noticing what your body's real needs are. So you can be honest with yourself by looking in the mirror and looking at your body and answer the question, because it's between you and you. Do you weigh more than you wish you did? Do you weigh more than you feel like is healthy for your body? Some people have gotten perfectly fine with weighing many pounds, sometimes hundreds of pounds more than their body would really like, and they have, quote unquote, made peace with it. Usually what they've done is become in a state of surrender to it because they don't feel that there's anything they can do about it. And this show is not about weight loss. It's really about connecting to loving your body at a higher level than you ever had before. And when you have excess weight and you have things that are going into the body that are not supportive to its energy field, to its vibration, then you're making your body work way, way harder. And your body is not going to feel nearly as good as it will when it's at a level of equanimity where it's really evened out.
And those food choices are really affecting your goodwill and your good nature, and you're feeling good. So when you're doing things that are not so supportive, it's going to make you feel crappy.
That's true. Usually the crappy is you feel guilty, you feel really low and boggy. You're tired a lot. You just don't feel alive. And there's lots of other reasons, of course, that can occur. But this is one of the things that occurs frequently with that whole food thing, the way it is.
Okay, this is a good opportunity. We're going to take a quick break right now, and we will be right back in just a few minutes. Hold on, and we'll be right there.
Welcome back. So there's something that I wanted to add, because when we talk about eating really good food and all of that kind of stuff, then what we're saying is that when you have a habit of eating unconsciously, that's really the only way I know how to say it, meaning that you're not aware of the nutrition that you're eating, you're not present with your food when you do eat it. Most of the time, you don't even taste the food when you eat it, and then you want some more of it. So what happens when you start to interrupt the pattern and you start eating things differently, all of the addictive parts and the familiar parts come up with a scream louder than anything you've probably ever heard before. It's like, wait, what are you doing? Don't you know that we're supposed to be, having an extra blah, 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 whatever that is? And that is where the real challenge comes in. One of the reasons that people don't change their weight or shift the way they eat is because they will not discipline themselves to feel what they don't want to feel. Let's say you wake up in the morning and you're hungry, and you usually rush out to the kitchen and you get something, whatever it is that you characteristically do. And that then starts the whole day running where you're hungry, 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 unconscious, hungry, whatever it is, the pattern that you have. And instead of doing that, what if you just stayed in that moment and you allowed yourself to be hungry? What if it was okay to feel your stomach growling? What if it was okay for you to be with the discomfort or the perceived discomfort that's there for you in that moment? The biggest reason people don't make change is because they don't want to feel. They don't want to feel, especially anything that will cause them a perception of discomfort. Therefore, they go unconscious to avoid the feelings, and they keep on doing what they were doing until they either become very ill or whatever kinds of thing happens. So one of the things to take a look at is how good are you, if you will, with being able to not have instant gratification. This is a really big thing for especially the U.S. people. U.S. people and people in general, they want instant gratification. We have shown that in every single level of life that you look around and see. We used to not have phones, and we had mail that showed up a month later or more because there was no fast way to get that. We then got telephones, and so we have telephones that made it a little bit better, although way back when there were party lines, you may pick up the phone and have to wait another 30 or 60 minutes to get your turn because you had to share the line with others.
Okay, you're showing your age now,
I know,
just so you know.
I look at this as awesome, actually. I look back and I go, wow, so many amazing things I have experienced and how many amazing things I have watched evolve into other places. And I also see the gift of what it was like then versus what it's like now, because there were some things that we might now call really archaic and difficult. But you know what? We really had time to be at a much higher level. We were not so overloaded and so inundated that we didn't have time to just sit and contemplate the flowers or be in the world at a level that we are not today. So we evolved from the phones to one lines. And then, of course, now we have FaceTime and things like that where you actually see somebody when you're speaking to them. And then, of course, we have the computers and the email and all of that. And then we have text. And text is about the fastest way you can connect with someone, like instantly in that moment. And why do you think all these things came about? They came about because we as a collective are very impatient and we want everything right now. So when we translate this into food and feelings, we realize that we don't want to feel anything that doesn't feel good for more than one tiny tenth of 1 nanosecond. It doesn't feel good. I'm getting away from it. It's not fast enough. I'm going for what makes me fast. I want instant gratification. So if you have difficulty with eating too much, too frequently, too unhealthy, just look at your overall life and look at how you are with instant gratification and how you feel like you must get something in your stomach because you're not okay with feeling the desire for something and not getting it met in 22 seconds.
Or more importantly, you're not really comfortable with feeling any underlying pain that's there.
Exactly. It's always a cover-up. Every addiction or any overuse of anything, even if it's not an addiction level, is a complete denial of the moment of what is. And what is that you might not be feeling as great as you would like to feel. So you frantically, your program, I'm not going to say you as a real core being, but your programs are going to run and find anything it can to divert you away from really being present with whatever that discomfort is, physical, mental, emotionally, doesn't matter. It's going to find a way out for you as fast as it can. And when you stop and you go, wait, and you just sink into your body and you allow your body to feel what it feels, and you go in and you notice that there's like some gurgling in your stomach and there's some anxiousness or tenseness in your chest or whatever it may be. When you become very clear and present to those sensations, and you are committed to allow them to have their life, their moment, if you will, and you do not react to them, you will find a mastery that is far beyond anything you've ever imagined. That takes a certain level of awareness, and it takes a willingness to observe rather than react. But when you do that, every area of your life will change. It's really not so much about counting calories. It's about being really present to what your body's trying to tell you. And did you want to say something? Because there's something else I was going to say, a little bit different subject.
The thing that I was thinking about is that when we have a feeling like we have to eat something, we have to have ice cream. For me, it's always, I want to go have a scone. So to me, what I'm getting as I was listening to you is that need to have that is just a flag that is going to be, for me, a red flag of any time I have a yearning for a particular kind of food. That's where it's coming from. It's not coming from a physical need. It's coming from covering up some kind of emotional thing and making us happy.
That's exactly right. That's beautiful. It gave me the chills, actually, because when that occurs, there is a need that the body is trying to tell you about, and the default place depends on the person. In your case, it would be, I need a scone. I need something to mask what's there. My level of self-judgment, my level of discomfort. It might even be a physical pain that you want to cover up with more food so you don't have to feel the physical pain. It can be whatever it is for every person. But that is really huge, what it is you just said, because it's, again, not about the food. It's about the recognition that there's something else that is needed. And one of the things that you could say to yourself or say to your body at that time is, what is it that you're really trying to convey to me? What is it that's really going on that I haven't seen yet right here? And instead of running off to the store or wherever it is that you might want to go, or the pantry, then what would be very powerful is to just sit with that, just literally sit with that. And even more profoundly, if you happen to have some things emerge, you can speak it into your phone if you happen to be not in a place where you can write it down, or write it down. Your body is giving you messages. Are you listening?
Yeah, I just had like a whole new awareness as we were doing this. It's like the body is saying, yo, listen up here. This yearning for this particular food, this calling, it's a big mask. And the way that we can overcome that is asking the simple question is, what are you trying to tell me you need? Not, just what do you need right now? What would you like different? Whatever, just so that you can get to that place. And then in one of our last retreats, we covered a little piece of this. And the piece that really resonated for me is when you feel that, just taking a few deep breaths, calming breaths. And we have this little mantra we do. Deep breath in, I am, and on the exhale, presence. Do that 2 or 3 times, and we'll forget why we're hungry.
It will definitely change everything, because when you're very sensitive in your body, you'll notice that when you start having that yearning or that craving, there's all kinds of activity going on inside of your body. And that means that there's actually like hormones happening and adrenaline is running, because you're like, in a place of, if you're very sensitive, you will notice that most of the time that craving is covering up a sense of terror or a sense of fear. So the adrenaline starts running to go get the need met so you don't have to face what's underneath that.
Yeah, and facing that can be very scary.
It can be. And that's why I always encourage people to, when you've got something like this going on, find a coach, find me, somebody that can see at this level of depth and support you in knowing what is the terror that's going on, so you do not have to do things to the physical body that are not necessary.
And I just wanted to say, don't beat yourself up if you feel, or after listening to these, you say, oh man, I got a problem about blah, blah, blah. The thing is that this is something that we grow up with. We use food to celebrate. We use food to make us feel better. This is a long time program. And the easiest way to say it's not your fault. It's part of the environment that we live in.
And it's very, very true. And if you have any doubt about this, just hang out with some mothers and watch what they do when their kids won't stop crying. They hand them a sucker. They hand them a sippy, whatever that thing is. They give them a candy bar. They give them their iPad, whatever. I mean, now it's running a little bit more in the technology department, but usually it's some kind of oral satisfaction that then becomes habituated. And when I don't feel good, in other words, as a child would be crying, I don't feel good, I learned that the way to handle that is to have something put in my mouth like food. And we start gravitating to doing that habitually. And it then becomes literally a program that is cellular. It's very, very deep.
And my experience with that is when I was a young kid, my grandmother used to take care of, she lived with us, and she would take care of us like when my parents would go out at night or whatever. And I remember one night really clear, I was really upset about something. And I was upset about being left home and blah, 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 whatever it was. And she gave me a piece of apple pie. She says, here, you shouldn't be unhappy. This will make you feel better, is exactly what she said. And, you know, to this date, apple pie is like my favorite. And that is burned into my psyche. Oh. Apple pie makes you feel good. The point is, we have to be gentle with ourselves and just really allow that to be okay, but make a change if you feel so called to. Being aware of it is obviously the first thing.
It is changeable. I promise you it is changeable. And it will take a commitment and a level of awareness and a frequency that allows you to see things from a bigger viewpoint, a macro view, if you will. Because when you can see this, then most of the time you are able to make changes a little bit more readily. But it's in there. But it doesn't mean that it's going to stay there forever. And eventually, when your frequency gets very high, then it's not a fight anymore. It's just whatever it is in that moment. And you make choices that are different because you're not covering up pain and suffering and habituation and addiction and all that, because those all have a certain frequency and you have now risen above that frequency to where you're not living there. So there's one other thing that I wanted to speak about quickly because I'm guessing we're running out of time. And you can do some of your own homework on this if you would like. And that is, it's intermittent fasting. Lots of studies have shown that intermittent fasting is something that's very, very powerful for the body. And what that means is that you make an agreement with yourself to stop eating at whatever time you do, ideally no later than 7 o'clock. In the most awesome place would be like 6 o'clock in the evening, but that's not realistic for some people who don't even get home from work until 6, but no later than 7. And when you go from 7 until like noon the next day, I don't know how many hours that is, but it's usually about 16 hours. If you can go 16 hours, if you can give your body a 16-hour rest in between eating food, you will find that your body will feel a lot better because it's able to use those times, those hours, to rejuvenate and to rebuild and to do things that it frequently can't do, because when we're putting something in our mouth pretty much all day and up into the night, and for some people in the middle of the night, then your body never gets to really rest. And so that's just something you can look up and see if that's something you think will work for you. It's very powerful. I have done that intuitively pretty much all my life. And I never even heard of intermittent fasting. I just knew that when I would eat dinner, my body likes to eat its last meal at 4. I don't do that anymore because I'm still working. But it is in the ideal world that I don't really eat after 4 o'clock. And I never have been a person who ate breakfast. And I know some of you are going, oh, no, you're always supposed to eat breakfast. Blah. Well, some people, yes. Other people, not so much. I do not feel good when I eat breakfast. In fact, it makes me hungry all day and I feel blah. So I rarely will eat before noon or 1 o'clock. So there's a short period of time that I eat, 6 or 8 hours that I eat. In that frame, at the most, it's usually 6 or less. And then my body has what it needs. And then it has a whole bunch of time to rest and digest and all that kind of stuff. One last thing is that there's also many, many studies that have shown that people feel better and live so much longer when they are lighter versus heavier. Meaning that if you look at these cultures or tribes or people or whatever that are in these other countries, the majority of them eat very little and they're very light eaters and their bodies are lighter than they are heavier because A, they're in nature, and B, they intuitively know what their body's trying to tell them. Your body doesn't have to work so hard when it is thinner. Now, is that a guarantee you're going to live to 120? No, because we also have a lot of other factors that are involved with that. I'm very thin, relatively speaking, and I've been thin all of my life. Does it mean that I haven't had issues with my knee? Yes, I have. I've been a runner and the cartilage went away and all these other kinds of things. But the bottom line is it really does change the way you experience life when you are aware, you're connected, you're conscious, and you listen to your body and you connect with the consciousness of the food. Oh, I could talk so much more about connecting with your food and tasting your things and
there's next
making
week.
friends with food,
We can do that next week. But one last question on intermittent fasting. You talked about the physiological aspects and being able for the body to rejuvenate and repair itself, et cetera. Are there any emotional benefits to doing this intermittent fasting?
Clarity is one of them. And I can tell you to do that if you're the kind of person who has to have something in their mouth before they go to bed and as soon as they get up, the emotional thing will be difficult probably at first. This is where it takes discipline. It takes commitment. It takes you pulling forth who you really are to take charge of what it is that you're really committed to, because your habit or your program is going to come up and go, well, this is a bunch of crap. Anytime you have the willingness to stop yourself from any kind of behavior, you are going to feel empowered. Every time you feel empowered, you're going to feel more confident. Every time you feel more confident, you're going to raise your vibration. Every time you raise your vibration, you are in a greater sense of connection within yourself. And eventually what happens is you realize that the ego is not ruling and running your life anymore. Instead, you're running from a natural essence of isness or beingness. And in that moment where you are totally connected, you touch something that is not able to be put into words. And every time you touch that piece of yourself, you'll find that your life emerges more profoundly than ever before.
Okay, so we're talking physical, we're talking emotional, we're talking mental, and most of all, we're raising our vibration. So next week, we're going to talk, I hope, if we go through with the plan show, we're going to talk about how relationships with food actually interact or fit in with our overall concept of relationships done different. Because this is an aspect when it's tied together, you will see how important relationships are as a self-development tool, which is what Esateys says all the time. So basically, we will tie in why relationships and why our relationship with food is an incredible self-development tool.
Okay, awesome.
That just came to me, and I know we're running out of time. So we'll do that next week, and I hope we don't forget.
I was going to say, you better write that down.
Yeah, well, what do we do for memory?
We can talk about that.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do another show on our relationship with memory. So we're going to go to the section of the show with a question. And we have a question today. This is from Chris from San Diego. What are some of the things I can do to be kind to my body?
Well, Chris, I'm sure must have listened to the show last week when I brought up the question about what would it take for me to respond to my body with kindness or something like that. It's a really, really good question. And in the ideal world, you would just be with that rhetorically and see what kinds of things come up. But I'll give you a couple of to-dos, if you will. And you may want to get a paper and pen right now, pause this recording and go get that so you can write them down. One of the things that you can do is notice your self-talk. Every time you notice that you are having an unkind thought, which for most people is pretty often, and you listen to that and you move to a state of observation. You observe those thoughts and you can do a couple of things with the thoughts. One is that you can just watch them float by and do not attach, answer, or orchestrate with them at all. The second thing you can do with thoughts is sink deeper into your body and see where those thoughts are affecting your physical body. That means notice if you have tension in your throat or your chest or your belly or wherever, and just be with those feelings again without any judgment about it being good, bad, right, or wrong. Just feel them, become curious to see. I mean, I have to tell you guys, if you really start observing the body and all of the complexities and how it's all intertwined and all of the things that are going all at once, it's just phenomenal. If you became really curious and really connected to all the things that are happening, you would just be on your knees, truly. So that's another thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do is in the shower, make the shower a place where you have your own personal connection with your body. And it could be the bathtub if you're a bath person. But in the shower, if you spend all of your time in the shower as you are washing your feet, thank your feet for, oh my gosh, carrying you around like it does. And as you scrub every different part of your body, thank it for its strength, for its power, for its connection to all the other parts of your body to help you get through your day more profoundly than ever before. Go through and put attention and one pointed focus on every single aspect of your body. That is going to be amazing when you do that and you are really present with your body. Another thing you can do is, as long as we're in the bathroom, you can stand in front of the mirror. And at first, you may want to start with your clothes on. And you look in the mirror and you say, as an example, Chris, I love you. Chris, I love you. Chris, I love you. And if your name is Jim or Bill or Sue or Esateys or Rafael, you say your name as you look directly into your own eyes and you say that over and over again. Most people, when they do this and they allow themselves to really connect to this, they start crying because the body doesn't know that it's loved and lovable because it's dealt with in a very obtruse and usually unconscious way. And your body is a really important piece of your life. You're not going to get anywhere without it. Once it's done, you're done. In regard to being in physicality, of course, who you are never dies. And so the core of you continues to live, but your body is your vehicle to be with this part of life. So really, really start to be in gratitude and start expressing love to yourself this way. Another thing is to notice when your body's tired and rest. Rest when it's tired. And another thing, of course, is what we're speaking about today with food. What is your relationship with food and your body? Are you eating unconsciously or are you a conscious eater? Are you eating food that lifts and elevates you, or are you eating stuff that lowers your vibration and creates your body feeling poorly? Wake up, and wake up to what it is that's going on and observe, and then make a different choice if you don't like what it is that you're observing. So those are just a few things. There are many, many things you can do, but hopefully you will take these and utilize them on a consistent basis. And in doing so, everything between you and your body will shift pretty much instantly.
That was totally awesome. I mean, that list was great. I'm very taken by it. Okay, well, we have one more thing to talk about tonight, and that's our question of the day. Esateys?
Okay, do you have your paper and pen around? I recommend that you ask yourself this question until the next time we speak and you get another question. And that is, what would it take for me to stop eating unconsciously? What would it take for me to stop eating unconsciously? And I want to reiterate here, perhaps you're not overweight. That doesn't have anything to do with eating unconsciously. It's a part of it for some people. But if you're not overweight, that's okay. What would it take for you to not eat unconsciously? And that means that you are with your food when you eat it. Actually, chew your food. Actually, chew your food like 20 times or until it goes into liquid, and taste all the different tastes that are available there. And then see it and feel it go into your body and watch it explode light into your body. I'm willing to bet there's probably not anyone on this call or on this podcast that has ever actually done that. It's amazing what happens when you become conscious with food.
Well, okay, thank you. I just want to say in closing, we would love to hear from you about how you are enjoying these shows on the body and whether you want more of that, or do you want to go back to pure relationship type things, which of course this is. But we would like to have your feedback so we can know how best to serve you.
And please share this with your friends. Send them the link so that they can also be exposed to a different way of perceiving every area of their life. Every one of these podcasts will shift some or many, maybe even all parts of you.
Okay, so until next week, we're going to say goodbye, and we will be back here next week with another awesome, awesome show.
So right now, if you're in a position to be able to do so, assuming that you're not driving a car, take your arms, and don't worry if you feel funny about it. Do it anyway. Put your arms around yourself and hug yourself, because that's another thing that's very supportive, is you put your arms around and just kind of like rub your shoulders, rub your arms, and realize that this body is the most amazing, amazing experience for you to be able to travel through life with. Honor, respect, love, and treat it like it is the magic carpet that it truly is. Until next time, know that you are loved and that I am you, you are me, and we are one.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye for now.